Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever this podcast may find you. It is I, as always, Gavin.
And I, Justin.
And this week, well, we just got done driving a Suzuki Cappuccino.
And we really need a cappuccino because we're a little tired today.
I'm exhausted right now. I mean, I drove from Salt Lake up to where the owner is up here by you, and then out to East Canyon, drove through East Canyon in the full duration twice for the first time of the year.
In a major rainstorm.
Well, half of it was in a major rainstorm, yeah, with some hail. But yeah, stick around and hear what we have to say about this car, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A go. So you just had a cappuccino.
I fucking need a cappuccino right now, actually. I'm exhausted, but
you just gave one away.
I just handed the keys to a cappuccino back to the owner. Yes. Shout out Brent for R.I.P. his knee. He just had knee surgery. So his second knee surgery. And so
Ouch.
Yeah. So with that said, we just showed up at his house and then took the keys to his. I had never even asked what year it was, but somewhere between 1991 and 1998, they made Suzuki Cappuccinos in Japan. And excuse me. And I didn't ask him very many questions. We kind of talked about other stuff when we linked up this morning. I don't know how long he's had it. He's had it for some time. Actually, I saw that car at like the Ogden like car show thing like last year.
Okay.
So I know it's been a year at least. And I know it's his because it's that special blue that they only made 750 of, and it already had white TE37s on it, which were minty.
They look great.
It looked awesome. And so, yeah, drove that today through East Canyon. So East Canyon's finally open. Can confirm. It felt great just to drive through the whole road today. I took a drive with Maddie a week or so ago, almost a week ago, and that was much more tame and chill, and I just wanted to be with my lady.
Oh, yeah.
So, but today was, work, quote unquote, work day. So, some miles were had all around. So his at the dyno, I presume a wheel dyno,
Probably.
was making a very nice 69 horsepower.
Very nice.
Very nice. From a 657cc engine, dual overhead cam with a turbo, made all the tuner car noises, bro. Like, it was straight out of like a Supra with a turbo choo-choo. And I didn't say this in the video, but it kind of makes like a whiplash noise, like from Indiana Jones, like with his whip.
It does.
So the video was of me driving it because I haven't driven a Cappuccino yet, and the only other K car I'd driven was like 6 or 7 years ago in a Honda Beat, and that was shot like after work in July.
Ooh.
In East Canyon, and in all motor. It's all motor and ITBs, and it sounded great, and that revved to like 8,200 RPM or so, 8,500 RPM, whereas the Cappuccino goes to like 95 or so. Like, I took it to 95 today, and I didn't ever really hit a fuel cut, like a none of that. He might have said like 9,700 or so, but like, okay, so what?
You're already in the nines.
You're deep into the nines. You're going higher than GT3s. You're higher than S2000s. You're higher than that Honda Beat. You're like, that's like one of the fastest spinning cars I've ever driven.
You're about as high as Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Doggy Dog.
But it's a cool little car.
It's rad. I'm not going to just say that I want one now, but I know I'm going to be going on Bring a Trailer and finding some listings. Actually, pull up Bring a Trailer because we can see what they've like gone for.
There we go.
I know it's not as much as you think. Also, a clean 964 right there. 1991 Carrera 4.
Jesus Christ.
69,000.
Well, I just saw this. Sorry.
Featured auctions.
This 4,700 mile Ford GT. I haven't seen them go for up above like 500,000 consistently. That's
so
2 days left.
With 2 days left and 5:06 on the clock for the bid. I mean, it's a Gulf theme. Who knows? I mean, I haven't seen any others in the Gulf color, so it's probably a factory option.
Oh. Do they not have it?
I'm pretty sure I've seen them on Bring a Trailer.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 5 total auctions.
One sold for $5,800, no reserve, but the other ones were like 82, 84.
Wow.
Yeah.
None of them broke 10.
None of them broke 10 yet. Well, we'll see what happens in the future with these cars for sale, but like peak COVID selling, I mean, the cheap one went for sale in 2018. So that's the $5,800 one. The only ones that happened since the pandemic was an $8,400 one in basically the week I bought my car, and then one like a month prior or so. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 11 months later. Sorry, I'm exhausted. So April of 2021.
Yeah.
And that's when like the peak shit was happening. And yeah, that's $8,200.
And honestly, so here's my difficulty with this car. I actually really liked it. And we both really think that it's much more fantastic to drive than you would think, given the small size and everything.
Yeah, and I'm okay spilling some beans because 20 people listen to this show.
Yeah.
When literally 20 people. So hats off to you if you're one of the lucky few.
We appreciate you.
Yes. The thing about this car is you can tell, and this might have been a trend of some cars that were made in Japan in the 90s, but it can really calm down and just be a nice car.
Yeah.
And then when you want it to, as you have put it, give it some fun.
Yes.
It does that in spades. Considering it's a 69 horsepower car, like there is a little bit of a turbo shove. It's a characterful motor, but it's also incredibly smooth.
Yeah.
The car that we drove was on BC coilovers, which, as far as ride quality go, are like my stock suspension Fiesta.
Great.
It rides completely fine. I think he needs to raise his coilovers a bit because I was rubbing, especially on the downhill. I was going into this review expecting to love the downhill and be completely, eating shit on the uphill, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, on the down or on the uphill it had power, it had some torque. If you're above $4,000, you have torque and power, and you can like move pretty well. If you're below that figure, I mean, I have to really rev it to like $3,000 just to like take off from a stop. But yeah.
So my conflict with this is this. You can buy them cheap when they're here, and I'm sure you can also import them pretty cheap. The problem is any type of maintenance. So it's doable, but everything is more expensive.
The parts exist, but it's just like, what did he say it was $1,200 for the headlights?
Yeah, after like import and duties and shipping and all that shit. Because like everywhere else, they're available cheap where they were actually sold.
Right.
But once you take like a $200 part from Japan, that becomes a $600 part by the time it gets to your doorstep.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty. Because other than that, this ticks so many boxes. It's relatively reliable. It's a little Japanese car. It's going to do decent.
Well, it's also a Japanese, what's effectively a motorcycle engine.
Yeah.
So the Gears and Gasoline boys each had a cappuccino.
Yep.
Or sorry, no, one had a beat, one had a cappuccino. And Asian Ben, tall Ben.
Yep.
His shat the bed on the dyno when they were trying to get numbers. And
then the beat shat the bed a little while later.
It did, but I mean, these are tiny little engines that are trying to keep up it. Granted, it's interesting that the cappuccino shat the bed first, because if you're trying to do 80 miles an hour in the beat, you're basically VMAXing.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to the cappuccino, like doing 80s, like you're actually straight chilling. You can go faster than that.
Yeah, so on one section, I got to drive the car for about 10 miles because most of it was Gavin. We didn't have too much time with it. And I was going up Parley's Canyon, passing traffic.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
And it was rather enjoyable.
It doesn't ask a whole lot of you to do that.
No, it really doesn't. And it is nice to be in a car that small. I'm fortunately a fairly small person, so I fit in it fairly well.
Yeah.
And
the seats were good.
Those seats were really good.
I didn't even talk about the seats in the film.
They are shockingly good, and that was also one of the options that made this car rare, was those seats.
Those seats, that color, not to get all Corvette owner on you, but this was one of 750 with this blue.
That was made on this day.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. But it really is a compelling package. Like, that does make me want to drive a Beat, which will eventually happen. It's just going to happen at some point. Yeah.
I hope so.
And an AutoZam.
Yes, we don't know if any of those exist in Utah yet. I know of a handful of Beats that are here.
Yep.
Shout out to Scotty with his Honda Beat that I drove a number of years ago. I'd like to have another go with that. I mean, if we find an AutoZam in Utah, that could be a feature film of ours. Is we drove the A, the B, and the C.
All 3 of the K cars.
Yeah.
And, like, I was just pulling this down real quick because I know the AutoZam is not only the most expensive, but also the rarest out of the 3.
Yeah, it's the most exotic. You know, it looks like a baby Testarossa, kind of. Like a Testarossa and an F40.
And this was the thing that intrigues me most about it isn't even the car. It's the fact it's in that weird era with Mazda where they just created new names for everything.
Yeah.
Because they did... They did a couple others. They did a luxury spinoff that I don't remember.
Century something?
It was weird, yeah. They did that. They did AutoZam. That's also right around when they were first getting ready to, like, release Speed, Mazda Speed as its own kind of sub.
What was the first
brand.
Mazda Speed?
The first one was the Protege.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it went Protege, Miata 3, 6.
Yeah.
So, but looking at this... Yeah, AutoZam doesn't really tell me how many were made, but not many. But it was first. That's interesting. It was first a Suzuki prototype. That's kind of funny. Before it went into.
I remember
big
something
Mazda.
about this. Yeah.
But anyways, like I've driven now. I just was thinking multiple different kind of microcarish things.
Yeah.
Because Mini.
Yep.
Robin is kind of that.
It's. That deserves the microcar title the most, probably.
Yes, because it's literally missing a limb.
Yeah.
I've driven now a Suzuki Cappuccino.
Yep.
And then driving all the others. I think it would be fun to kind of drive all of the small cars, not necessarily in a big film, but just I have driven all of the small cars.
Gradually, yeah.
And, you know.
Well, it's kind of like how all the other YouTube channels are about EVs.
Yep.
We're way too behind the ball to really, I think, say anything about EVs.
No.
Aside from like a Tesla Roadster, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But like, it would be kind of cool to have like this niche, like information and like data pool to pull from of like microcars.
We should.
Like everyone else is driving like Teslas and GT3s and like the new hot shit.
We should basically do Jason Camisa's drag race with all the microcars.
Oh my god.
That would be
Watch
funny.
Jason just go do that.
I wouldn't put it past him. The dude's a legend.
He owns a Beat.
Oh, he does?
Yeah,
Nice.
He cannot stop talking about how great that car is.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, again, listening to that Gears and Gasoline film and watching it, like, car sounds fucking phenomenal with those ITBs.
The sounds are amazing. It sounds that way more so than the Cappuccino. Sounds more like half a 911.
Yeah, and it almost reminded me very much of the NSX. Because of exactly where like the crossover hits on the valve timing.
It doesn't have. That's a single cam.
Interesting.
Yeah, Beats don't have VTEC.
I could have sworn that I heard it in there, but it might have just been like the car's natural progression of revs that I heard. But either way, it still sounds phenomenal, and it sounds like half an NSX.
It
or
does.
half a 911, like you said.
Yeah, half of a V6. Beats are they are quite cool. The experience that I had driving it was basically one way from the bottom of East Canyon up one side and over.
Yeah.
And most of it was spent trying to just hang out to like 50 miles an hour going up east. Whereas like the Cappuccino, like that thing boogied.
You know what's funny? And you would be the one to predict this because I haven't driven a Beat, but the dichotomy between the Beat and the Cappuccino kind of reminds me of the dichotomy between the Mini and the ERA. When we drove those two.
I was thinking about ERA actually today, and I should have mentioned it. We had limited time because I didn't do my job correctly and charge GoPro, so we kind of had limited time.
Yeah.
And I got burned. I burned myself for that. Most other times, it's actually not me burning myself, but today was the exception. And looking at like the fake like wood veneer dash and like the kind of like leather interior that this car had, but like the nice seats. That did remind me of ERA Mini versus just 995cc Mini.
Yeah, it really did feel like that. And I'm sure, given the power difference, it probably feels about the same. Granted, the ERA we drove was turned up a bit, which I think was the perfect amount of power. It was never too much, but it was a good shove.
Oh, yeah.
I think this Cappuccino turned up just a bit more.
Yeah, if there is like a big turbo upgrade or something, which maybe you can do. I mean, the thing is DOA below $4,000.
Yeah.
Like revving it to 3 just to like pull out from a light is like enough. So if you add a bigger turbo, I mean, it also, I mean, how high did you rev it when you?
I got it up to 9.
It starts to dwindle as far as like power is concerned. Like really, you can shift it at 8 or even 7.
Yeah.
And like get enough out of it as far as like push wise. But also the high rev count is also good for when you're trying to shift, because I almost money shifted twice. And I haven't money shifted in fucking years, bro.
I almost did as well.
I would like catch it at like 7.
Yeah, so with me it was a downshift. An upshift going from 4th to 5th, but I hit 3rd.
That's what mine was.
Interesting.
5th, you really have to come over.
Yeah, well, and my worry, I had a worry on a couple downshifts because the gearbox is not the most great thing in the world.
They're all like that.
Apparently, yeah. We thought maybe it was loose bushings, but the owner's like, nope, this is entirely factory bushings. Everything's replaced. Yeah. But I was a little worried once coming from a 5th to 4th downshift, because I'm like, I really need to make sure I'm not accidentally going to trigger reverse, because it's just not very accurate.
First is tough to get into.
Yeah.
So that's nice. You won't accidentally pop it into first.
No.
And this isn't just you guys, drive left-hand drive cars all the time, and this is a right-hand drive car. You and I have driven both Minis.
Yep.
We've both driven Reliant Robin. I've driven B18 Swap Mini and an R32 GTR, not GTR, I'm sorry, GTS4. And you and I both drove the R33 GTR. And I also drove Kaz's R32 GTS4.
Yeah. And I just had a funny thought, because like my first right-hand drive car was the black Mini that we filmed a year and a half ago on camera.
Yeah.
That was the first time. And then there was a gap. And then in quick succession over the past 3 months, I've driven R33.
Yeah.
I've driven Reliant. And I've driven this Cappuccino.
Maybe we should just change our channel from Exhibition of Speed to right-hand drive only.
Exhibition of Right.
No. That's going to get problematic.
No, I know.
How are we going to spell right? R-I-C-T or
R-I-T-I R-I-T-E.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll make it work.
Not the Third Reich?
No.
Exhibition of Reich. That's a different channel.
It's a different channel.
That's filmed in some dude's mom's basement in Alabama.
Yeah, you'll have to talk to the Big H about that one. Anyways.
Or Big T.
Yeah. It's funny having driven all these now, because I agree. I don't think either of us it's a problem with our left-handed shifting.
No,
I think we're both proficient at this point. It's just...
Oh, I'm sorry. Also, I drove a different R33 GTR.
Oh.
Before. Grant's.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyways, I bring that up because when you and I drove Brad's white R33, that was just like surface street driving, just kind of straight line and punch. The R33 I drove before was through East Canyon.
Yeah.
And I feel much more proficient, or not proficient, but just comfortable in the Cappuccino than I did in the R33.
Gotcha.
It felt much more natural, whereas the R33 that I drove before just felt boaty. It just felt big.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like super confident with like, stringing through corners. Granted, that car made a lot more power and that could get away from you way easier than the Cappuccino ever would.
Yeah.
But still.
The Cappuccino, to get away from you, you'd have to be going downhill pretty fast.
In the rain.
Yeah. Which, I mean...
And copious amounts of throttle.
Yes, exactly.
Don't ask me how I know.
No, I think it works quite well. And I was kind of sitting there cross-comparing it in my mind to the Mini I drove, because that came kind of naturally. We actually drove it in some of the same roads, East Canyon.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if I would have a Cappuccino or not. Really, even with as good as it is, because I think I'd still rather have like a Mini, like an ERA.
Yeah.
Because I think it played a little more, at least to me. Mm-hmm. The Cappuccino, I think, is a lot more grounded. It is shockingly grounded.
Yeah, it is.
And
part of it is due to being underpowered, but
yes, and so I would probably still veer for something like that if I was going for a microcar. It would probably be an original Mini, because I've genuinely enjoyed my time with those.
So I really like this car.
Yeah.
I don't think... over the ERA that we had, I think I would still prefer it because of the rear-wheel drive. That's really kind of it.
Yeah.
Is a rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive, and I think for an occasion car, I would much rather rear than front-wheel drive. But if we're talking minis, I would, in an ideal world, prefer a Honda swapped.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's batshit, and that's going to really cater to just the sense of occasion that, like, you want to have if you're having, like, this fun thing in your life.
Yeah. And to me, I guess one of the things, which we know this, to me, a lot more of just like owning the car ends up being fun to me. I don't have to drive it for it to be fun. And to you, it's a little bit more the opposite.
Well, I want to buy a car to do fun things, so I want to buy the car that's better at fun things.
Yeah, exactly. And those are both perfectly fine. Like, that is what you aim towards. And I aim towards a little bit more like, I like the thing, even if it's not moving, even if I'm not doing anything with it.
Right.
And that's probably why I'd have the ERA. However, as far as the Cappuccino is concerned, like, it you even mentioned it felt like almost Grand Tour-esque with how nice it was.
That's why I started to think about ERA, because the ERA Turbo Mini really did similar things as far as being able to light your hair on fire.
Yeah.
We say this all the time. We use that phrase all the time. But, like, it really, like, you can turn up with that and have a great time. And it can also just be an car. And I felt similarly in the Cappuccino. The Cappuccino, if we're talking about that spectrum, it still lies more towards being more focus-based, more focus of a car.
Yeah.
Because partially it's rear-wheel drive, and also the greenhouse inside the car, there's a lot more just space and area in the Mini.
Yes.
Granted, also, the steering wheel position and the pedal position are completely fucked on a Mini.
Yes, they are.
As opposed to that Cappuccino,
which is very good.
Which is fine, yeah. I was heel towing, like, 4-3 and 3-2.
Yeah.
Like, just fine. So
I think my thing, if I was to have a Cappuccino, I would want it to have a little more throttle response. It was a little slow on throttle response.
Yeah, it was sluggish.
But that's also we're at altitude. It wasn't really made for this type of altitude.
Oh, yeah, it was struggling to idle with the AC on at the top of Big Mountain Pass, which is like 7,400 feet probably at least.
Yeah, it's up there.
Can you bring up a topo map of that?
Let's see. I don't think Google Maps would have anything, would it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, because there's a layers.
Gotcha. Okay, Big Mountain Pass, right there. And
layers.
There it is. More
terrain? No. I know I've seen it. You can't scroll down at all?
No, that's it.
Fuck, I swear I've seen it, but I guess maybe just go on to, or maybe there's info there, I don't know. Apparently you last visited on Friday. Is that me, maybe?
That's you, because this is signed into the EOS account, yeah. No, it's up there. Either way, it's above 7,000 feet. It's in a position where, like, there's only a few places in Japan that get that high, so they're not going to be thinking of, like, trying to make a car that runs that great at that altitude.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could see you owning it. I could see you having one.
Really?
Of those. You've talked about, well, here's the thing. You've talked about having like a Beat or something like that, or a Miata or something like that.
Here's the problem with Miatas. Miatas, some of them are now more expensive than these Cappuccinos. Like, okay, if you get a Cappuccino, Cappuccino versus Miata, and this is something that, if I had all the time in the world on camera, I probably would have gotten around to.
Yeah.
The Cappuccino is cheaper to buy.
Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. We had a funny little thing. There's just some upstairs noise. But no, Cappuccino versus Miata is an interesting thing because, like you just said, it is more expensive to get a Miata at this point, which is weird.
But when it comes time, NA Miatas, more so than they were 10 years ago, are high miles, like 200 plus.
Yep.
Yes, they can run for a long time, but at this point, a lot of them are going to be beat, which is why the good ones, when they're not beat, they're 5-figure cars now, which I don't believe they should be.
No, it's the typical aging of a car. You've got both. That car has gone through a bit of ups and downs with owners,
Yep.
And like how much the owner paid for it is fairly linear to how much they're going to give a shit.
There's an everyday driver video that we made in 2015 when the ND came out, and we did all of the Miatas together, NA through ND.
Yep.
The MB owner, he paid $2,000 for his car.
Yeah, which doesn't exist anymore. $2,000 these days, you're getting a shell with some rust.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen rolling shells try to go for like 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he got a running driving car. Also, a running driving like perfectly fine car at what regardless of what it is at $2,000 is impressive. But the fact that it's like a fun Miata that you can also daily drive is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're talking about $8,000 for a cappuccino, $8,000 for a Miata, that's where like NA6s, like clean NA6s, some NA8s, I think are going to be in that region. NBs, I think, are almost in that region now.
Yeah.
NCs are probably cheaper. And then NDs are, newer cars, so they're just going to be more expensive. They'll be in the teens at the least.
Yeah. NC probably.
Actually, no, probably in the 20s for all NDs.
Probably.
Can you look that up?
Yeah. Probably in the 20s. I'd imagine the only ones you'll find sub 20 are probably going to be like salvage title cars or stuff like that.
Right.
Let's see. Auto Trader.
Also, Chen tagged us in a reel.
Oh, sweet. We have a reel with the cappuccino. Let's see. Boom. Okay, so that's new. Okay, so yeah. So NC is still 16.9. NC.
What the fuck? Those were like $6,000.
18.
I'm sorry. Go back up again. What are your filters?
There isn't any.
You just put an MX-5 Miata?
Yep.
In 50 miles? Okay.
Yeah.
Do nationwide and go from like, I don't know. Look from like 5 to 15 or 5 to 20.
On price?
Yeah.
Okay. Price and payments. There it is.
See what we get.
So NC for 15.
And could you also go lowest to highest?
Yeah. Boom.
Sorry, folks.
There we go. And
The cheapest one here,
$57.50 for that's an N.
NA.
Yeah, NA.
Okay. Yeah. NAs and MBs are now basically equivalent. You used to get NBs for less.
And I'm going to guess this NC right here is probably salvage title
Probably.
for that price compared to the rest.
Well, that's where they used to live at.
Apparently they rode the wave.
Let's just see. It's got the convenience package.
Ooh, I know. So convenient. Flexible payments. Yes, today.
Take a free Florida vacation on us. We will pay for a one-way flight to Tampa. So you want to buy the cheapest NC Miata in the country from Florida, who's also offering to fly you out there.
Yep, frame damage right here. Yeah, so it has been.
Yeah.
It has been.
Yeah.
Which
track car. That could be a track car.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
No. Like I tell people with salvage titles all the time, it can either be the best or the worst, depending on why you're buying it and who you're buying it from.
Yeah.
Because there was actually, funny enough, when I was on the way, just waiting for us to be done, a yellow S2000 that popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $17,000.
Okay.
And it was a rebuilt, reconstructed title.
Oh, fuck.
But he's like, I have all documentation. It was some damage that didn't even impact frame. I have measurements.
Yeah.
I'm like, that'd be a fucking killer car.
That'd be great.
Like, the other thing is, it's never going to go down in value from there. Like, it's going to be, you're not going to like be in the negative with that car like that.
No, it's just of whenever you want to turn it around and sell it.
Yeah, and so you just have to learn, okay, why am I buying this car, and make sure that decision's smart. If you're trying to buy it in any way where you might get rid of it in a year or two, don't. Because with a salvage title, that doesn't work. But if you're buying it to keep it, that'd be effective.
Also, 17, that's like not so far down the totem pole on price, where like that car is probably going to ride the wave in another 5 years too.
Yeah.
Because like if you bought that now, they've been going up. There's no reason for them to go down.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was clean, under 100,000 miles.
yeah.
Like clearly had a bad incident, but had recovered from that really well.
Right.
And
It's not going to drive funky.
no, exactly.
Take it to a track day.
Yeah, it
or
was
something.
It was just financially total was all.
Yeah.
No major damage. Yeah, track day would be great. Anything like that.
Fun. Just fun weekend car.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. How big actually? Here's a question. I might have to bring this over here real quick so that I can just like pull it up. I'm actually curious how much larger a NA Miata is than a Cappuccino.
Lengthwise,
Just every dimension. Like
it's probably almost a foot longer. It's probably at least 6 inches wider.
Yeah.
And also 1 point. So you're talking a whole liter almost.
Yeah.
Larger in displacement for the small one.
Yep. Okay. NA Miata. Here we go. Okay. So NA Miata wheelbase is 89. Cappuccino is 81. It's actually not as big of a difference as I thought. Length of the Miata is 155. Cappuccino is 130. So it's almost 2 feet longer.
Yeah.
Height is a whole 10 inches.
Yeah.
And
Believe that.
weight, we were actually a little bit under on Cappuccino weight, 1,600 pounds.
Really?
I know.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised. And then Miata's 2210.
Yeah. That depends too. 'Cause
Yeah.
You could also get a lot of them that are just stripped out and gutted.
Yeah. So that.
Or 22. Yeah, that sounds right. But if you gut it, you're probably gonna pull another 200 pounds.
Yeah.
You could probably get them under $2,000. Probably.
I'm sure you could with some work.
Yeah.
So they're by American standards, they're both small. However, it is a different level of small. And that's one thing that I didn't really realize. I've never been around an actual K car.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is tiny. I mean, it's crazy to think, though, that is still 8 inches taller than a GT40.
Wow.
Like, for those of you that don't know, when Ford made the GT40 race cars in the 60s to compete with Ferrari, like part of the reason for its name is that it is 40 inches tall.
Right.
And 40 inches, even for a short 5'7" person like me, is like almost below my waist height. It is short.
Right.
And this car was 8 inches taller than it. Granted, this does kind of have like a little bit of a bubble roof, so you actually can fit.
You can, and once you're in there, it's comfortable.
It is. It's a little bit of a pain to get in. You kind of have to go in feet first, kind of like shuffle yourself in.
Getting out is worse.
Yes, because you can't really shuffle out as easy as you can go in.
Yeah.
But I think for what it is, like, and that 1,600 pounds probably speaks to like how well it drove.
Yeah.
Because it felt super compliant. I mean, actually.
So wait, how much did the ERA weigh? 17?
I was around there. Yep, let me pull it up. ERA Turbo. Because I was thinking the Robin weighed 950. ERA, wow. ERA weighed more, 1625.
So, okay.
Wow. Little Mini actually weighed more than that thing.
The portly Mini.
Exactly. With a length that's 5 inches shorter than that beat, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, the Europeans have always made cars more dense.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a Mini with a turbo. Not an intercool, but still a turbo and all that piping.
They've made cars more dense unless you're in the Reliant Robin.
True.
Because
not a whole lot of substance to that car.
Like I said, 950-ish pounds. It's just a massive single fiberglass body. That's all there is to that entire car.
And an 850cc engine.
I know. And considering that, like, actually, I just thought of a funny thing. The power to weight of that Cappuccino is almost the same as like that Robin. They actually kind of linearly go down with their weight pretty well. 40 horsepower to 900 pounds versus 69 horsepower to 1,600.
Yeah. I mean, it's way faster, though.
It is. And I think that's what made the Robin not struggle as much up hills as the Mini. Because the Mini, like the black Mini that we drove, struggled up hills.
Yeah.
The Reliant surprisingly didn't.
As much.
I was able to. Acceleration was achievable up a hill. It's kind of the metric.
It's all relative, though, right? Like, what's your definition of acceleration?
The needle going up. that is the metric. Whereas the Mini was lucky to maintain.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. I I wonder. So you were talking about a swap some people do with the cappuccinos.
I mean, motorcycle engines.
Yeah.
So the Suzuki GSXR, also known as a Gixxer, motorcycle. I mean, the name Gixxer has been used for a while. They used them in there were different Gixxers. There was an 800. I know that they made liter bikes as well. I don't know if you want to pull that up or not. We're doing a lot of pulling up because I'm on 3 brain cells right now, 1 per cylinder of the cappuccino.
So it's JX.
Wait, JXSR?
JXSR or GSXR.
Well, oh, you said J? I'm sorry, I meant G.
Yep, GSXR. Okay, cool. And I'm imagining it'd be one from like the era of this.
No,
right here.
no.
Oh, it'd be the newer ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so like somewhere in like 2000s.
Like yeah, Gixxer 1000. They've also made discontinued models go down. So they had a 750, they had a 600,
a 1000R.
Yeah. When like kids, like teenagers back in like the early 2000s, like there was a thing of like, teenagers, instead of getting a car, they get a Gixxer.
Yeah.
Which leads to death.
Yeah. 143 horsepower though. That's
So if you double what was in the cappuccino.
Yeah. I could see how that could be fun. I mean,
it's that with like with the flat foot shift or like a sequential gearbox.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
That would be badass.
Yeah.
And I can see why people have done it.
Yeah.
It's also just a funny concept to think like, I'm going to throw a motorbike engine in a road car.
A car one of the few cars that Matt Farah drove from his one take era that he almost bought on the spot was a Honda N600 that had a CBR swap.
Okay.
And a sequential.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I think the sequential, honestly, to me, is almost what makes it as more cool than even just the power bump.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I wonder, though, how they deal with reverse, because clearly that doesn't have reverse.
Right.
So there's got to be some way that somebody's...
I've heard of some things with some people doing, like, reverse vacuum.
They could probably either do that, or they could do...
something that runs the transmission in reverse, but not the engine.
Yeah, something like that.
Which I know, a reverse gear, that sounds obvious, but... There's I think a vacuum function that I think is possible. If you flip it, it can run the trans in reverse.
Yeah, there are some things that can happen, and so it's probably something like that. Either that, or you can install a secondary tiny little box that will just switch gears from going out the drive shaft.
Yeah, like a transfer case, basically.
Basically, yeah, transfer case, but instead of 4-wheel to 2-wheel, it's forward to reverse. So actually, in that case, you could go full speed in reverse. Oh God,
that's.
Oh my God, that would be terrifying.
Do that on a runway, like you have to line up exactly with the line and then just down.
Yep, just dump clutch. Boom.
Imagine a J turn at like 60,
especially in something that's small
and that short wheelbase.
Yeah,
woof.
You'd need a big runway. Make sure you don't die.
You would like an actual like runway.
Yeah, that could be really cool, and I'm sure there's other stuff people do to these all the time. I have no doubt. I mean, it's a K car. Like, it's a little tiny Japanese car that just takes everything that we normally think about Japanese cars and distills it down into a very small package.
Right.
So all the modification's going to be there, I'm sure.
So with the NSX being one of your more recent, Japanese sports car experiences, in your video you said that you would think about maybe trying to get one, as a daily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you'd want a cappuccino as a daily, but where does that stack? Because as far as Japanese sports car experiences, it's NSX, brief time in Miatas. You drove the ND briefly, and you drove the NA8.
Even more briefly.
Even very more briefly. That was straight road only.
Yeah.
And then cappuccino.
And then, I don't think there's, as far as sports car experiences, been anything other than
I wouldn't
that.
count the MX-6 as that.
No. Oh, no. God, no. Not at all.
I know you just have brought it up. It's like, yeah, I've driven Japanese cars, MX-6. Like,
well, and I'm saying in general, like, but no, I would never in a million years put that into the sports car category.
But where does like the Cappuccino sit with you?
I would say it's second to the NSX.
But like, by what margin? I guess.
With what I look for in a car, by probably a pretty wide margin.
Okay,
Primarily
that's
because
understandable.
Primarily because the NSX, despite how it looks big, but it's actually not as big as it looks.
You're right. When you drive it, it becomes smaller.
It becomes smaller. It's easy to park. The trunk is actually ginormous for what it is. There's a lot you can fit in there.
Yeah.
It's comparable to an average car's trunk. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
It's nothing like a wagon, but it obviously doesn't get the mileage. But since it was here available in America, parts are probably quite a bit cheaper and easier to come by comparatively.
They can be, yeah.
And
it's still like the Corvette, though. Like, there's a lot of bespoke shit for that. Just because it has a Chevy V8 in there doesn't mean that you know everything's a nickel.
Yes, and finally, as the Suzuki 4K car seems like it was pretty well put together and probably a little bit more quieter, smoother, and stuff like that than maybe some of the others.
Also, the ABCs are not the only K cars, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we had not we, but we as a society had the oh fuck, what's there's the POW.
There's the Honda Acti. It's a K truck.
Yeah, there's all the K trucks like Subaru Sandbar.
Mm-hmm.
So
no,
like
I know there's a broad spectrum of
the
them.
K just really means that it was built for a tax bracket that you know they would be taxed much more heavily if they had engines over 660 cc's.
Yeah, but there's a level of quality difference with like the interior and put togetherness, which there has to be because they're much cheaper with like the NSX. That to me, like living with the NSX would be so much easier. It'd still be the one that I'd want to go. That's why there's a fair margin between them.
It was screwed together pretty nice though in the interior of the Cappuccino.
Yeah, for how cheap it is, considering other cheap cars I've driven, it was really good.
Yeah,
like bearing its own metric, it was above its own bar.
Like the switchgear felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Dials were clean.
Everything worked.
I had the defrost, and oh my god, it rained today.
Yeah.
It fucking rained, and so I had the rear defrost on, the front defrost with AC on. The wipers work better than in my car.
I know. Actually, I figured that out too when I was coming up the hill. I'm like, wow, these
great.
Function fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess when they're only like 10 inches long.
They don't have to work that well.
I know. It's not trying to cover your huge-ass windshield on your Fiesta.
True.
So, but yeah, bearing in mind that it was a cheap car for a cheap tax bracket, like its quality honestly exceeds that bracket.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what they were new. I don't know what the pricing was on those new. I only know where they are now.
And I don't even know if I'll be able to find it quickly in this whole list right here. But maybe I could try Googling it and see if it pulls up. MSRP. See if it pulls up with anything. What years? Okay, so take this with a grain of salt because this is a quick Google, but 9,751. I'm assuming that's converted from like yen.
Sure.
And probably
also between best case scenario 1998. So what? It's probably gone up double.
Yeah, so it'd probably be just under a $20,000 car, somewhere around there.
It's pretty good.
That's actually pretty good considering there's only like 2 cars right now that sell for under 20. Because there's still the Nissan,
like a Versa Note,
and then there was one other
Kia.
No, because the Rio I think is I think the Rio starts at like 19,995 or whatever.
Jeez, that's insane.
Yeah,
because like the Rio 5 I think was like a $9,000 car.
Yeah,
Chevy doesn't make the Aveo anymore.
No, thank God.
Thank God.
And the only other Chevy that would have been in that price bracket was the Trax, I think is what it's called. They had another smaller car. But, yeah, I mean, so what would you rather have, a Versa Note or that?
Oh, I'd rather have that, for sure.
Like, I know we can't. I know that there's no feasible way with regulations and everything that we could bring back something like the K-Car, even in Japan.
Well, Honda has talked about in bringing back an S600.
Oh,
an
gotcha.
S660. You should Google it. The concepts look rad. They look like a baby S2000.
Honda S660.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Actually, yeah. So they brought it back.
Okay.
That's a real car.
Interesting. Yeah, it's
kind of like a Beat meets NSX.
yeah.
Design language wise.
Yeah, because a lot of this front end has kind of the angularity of the NC1.
Yeah, but then it's still a mid-engine 3-cylinder.
Okay. Yeah, see, and nearly identical. So its dimensions are nearly identical to the Beat.
Sold with the 6-speed or a 7-speed CVT.
Ooh.
Those don't mix, but okay.
Somebody did some bad Wikipedia editing at some point. This is why you don't.
A 7-speed.
This is why you use Wikipedia as a reference and then fact check.
Yeah.
Let's see, 63 horsepower. Okay, so it's not really even up on power that much, all things considered, compared to the old one.
From the Beat?
It's up, but not like extravagantly up.
I mean, yeah, we're splitting hairs if we're calling it that. Yeah, because that was like...
The Beat was like 30.
No, it wasn't. I think it was around 63.
I thought it was less than that.
No.
Let's see.
But you skipped it. It says 63 right there.
Oh, gotcha.
So, yeah. Same power.
So, same power. That's funny. 30 years separating them, same power.
Yeah. It's like Subaru, like with the WRX.
Uh-huh. And weight of... that makes me worried. So, up... not really any power, but probably up several hundred pounds.
Yeah.
That's worrisome.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would handle fine. My worry would be the forward momentum that's not on flat ground.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, it's got to be a different engine, so maybe more torque. And older cars don't rev up as fast, so you can probably run through gears quicker in the new one.
Yeah, and this might sound a little weird, but it's possibly a more efficient 63 horsepower, especially with a slightly better transmission with better ratios and a 6-speed versus 5.
Yeah.
So that would help. Interesting. Yeah. Something like that would be cool to see here, but what I'm basically getting at is that we'll never really get cars like that anymore, at least not exactly the way that those were. Super lightweight and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because no one's going to buy them.
And they're unsafe as hell.
Yeah.
Like, as cool as they are, that's what I have to keep reminding myself every time I go look back at some older cars.
Yeah.
Is a lot of the reasons that they are cool and a lot of the reasons that some newer cars have become a little bit less interesting and cool is due to the fact that I could crash in a newer car and completely survive.
Right.
Something like that, not just the Beat even, but even, an smart car, Accord, anything like that from more than 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Question mark. Big question mark. Yeah. Especially with more nasty accidents like side impacts and shit like that.
Yeah.
You're going to be in a tin can. But
so looking at performance with this S660, this is it's a turbo motor. So
interesting.
Yeah, it makes 77 foot-pounds.
Woo!
As opposed to probably 50 to 60 foot-pounds?
Probably. Let me go forward again. And it doesn't even say the torque. They don't even list the torque.
It's negligible.
Yeah, it's probably 40, I bet. Something like that. Because this is non-turbo, the Beat, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all motor, ITBs, revs to the moon.
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that it'd probably be around the 40 range, which would make it feel a lot more lethargic. Let's see. I don't know. Something like this would be interesting because since it has almost the same dimensions, I'm wondering with the rest of the car, like maybe the interior, the trunk, things like that, how modern car design has either helped or hindered that.
Right.
Because a lot of modern car design, you'll get in a car that's pretty massive and it feels a lot more cramped on the inside than you might think.
Honda is pretty smart though, with the amount of storage you could put in the Fit.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Honda knows how to work that. So who knows? I don't know. I've never seen it.
Could be better. It could be better. Again, I've never driven a Beat, but comparing it to the Cappuccino, my hope is that there'd be a little bit more trunk room potentially.
Trunk room or just interior space in general?
Yeah, just a little bit more livability room.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think that's cool. But another interesting thing that came out this week, kind of moving on from the K cars, is the new Lexus. The Lexus, it's actually the GX 600. which will end up being right up your alley because of
overlanding.
Yep, exactly. If I can find it. Oh, I need to type in. I did this earlier, and it didn't come up unless I typed 2024. Boom. There we go. What we know so far. It seems like I had this thought earlier when I was thinking about this new Lexus. In the past year, Lexus and Toyota have had this huge wave of stuff because they're kind of a company that's weird. They'll spend like more than a decade on a single model with minor revisions, and then all of a sudden they'll just wipe the floor with everything. So in the past year, we have just recently the new Tacoma.
Yep.
We have the new Tundra.
Yep.
We have the GR Corolla.
We have new Sequoia.
We have the new Sequoia. We have the new, this is kind of pushing it a little bit, but the new updated GR86. It's a little bit before that, but right around that same time period.
This is New Year's. Yeah, that's close enough in my book. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have this new, effectively our version of the Land Cruiser getting updated.
Which it looks weird. I'm just gonna say it. It looks like a Bronco kind of on top, and then like an IS or maybe a GS, Lexus GS like front end on like a 4-door Bronco. It's weird.
I have some questions. And then
the back end that looks like a Lincoln.
Yeah.
Or a Grand Wagoneer actually.
Or a Grand Wagoneer.
That looks like a Grand Wagoneer.
So this will be interesting, but it seems like Toyota as a company is weird because they'll kind of just go forever without doing anything and then just shit out 10 models.
Yeah.
So we seem to be in the middle - tail end of the cycle now with this coming out because this is basically the same platform as the Tundra, the Tacoma, like same 3.4 V6 with hybrid shit.
Yeah.
We'll see. I wonder how many of those you're going to start seeing come into work once they become available.
I don't know. I mean, we don't see that many Lexi coming. It's normally more Toyota in general.
Gotcha.
We're also pushing more for 4-wheel campers.
Yeah.
As well. So like I've actually seen some older trucks, like an older Silverado.
Gotcha.
Which is like Silverado from like the early 2000s, late 90s.
Okay. With like a flatbed for a 4-wheel camper.
No.
Oh, so an actual bed.
Like a drop-in. Yeah.
Okay.
So it comes on 33s. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to say about this. I got to be honest, because okay, it's a new Lexus crossover or SUV.
Yeah. Again, I mean, it's.
Can you scroll down and see like the inside?
Yeah, it's basically the same as the Lexus version of the Tundra interior.
Yeah.
So and again, Toyota again.
At least it doesn't have a yoke.
Yeah, exactly. They're all like iterative in that way. They just do the same thing. Like, I'm curious with a lot of this, and I'm also curious if they have anything left. Because 3 years before this whole launch sequence was when they dropped the LC 500. Because that was like 2018, I believe.
So that's 5 years ago.
5 years ago. That was the only thing I can think that launched in the middle. Oh, yeah, sorry. IS 500, last year as well.
IS 500 also, I mean, if you're talking about 2018, 2019, they had, in 2019, they had the Super come back.
Yeah. So, lots of things. But, I don't know. Lexus as a company and Toyota are kind of interesting in their ins and outs and how they go places. Because they'll go for, 5 years of being kind of the punching bag of the automotive press. Because it's like, you haven't done jack shit. And then all of a sudden...
And then they drop a new one, and then this is going to last 15 years, and then they're going to come out with a new one. By then, it'll be electric.
I mean, it's funny that the Toyota, like the Tacoma, like mine, has been in production since the 90s.
Well, no. Not really.
Late 90s.
Yours came out in 2017.
I'm saying the Toyota Tacoma, like the truck in general.
The nameplate.
The nameplate.
Only the nameplate has been around that long.
That's what I'm saying. It only has 3 generations. That's my point.
Yeah.
They stretched them out, especially the second gen lasted forever because it was 05 to 17.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
That's 12 years on a single generation of truck.
Well, also Nissan went, 15, 16 years on the Frontier?
Yep. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like... it's just with different ways different companies do business. I also hate when people do too many revisions and then it's like, which model is this?
Oh, McLaren is the fucking worst with that.
Yeah.
You see one of those on the road, it's like, okay, so is that the 570 GT or the 600 or the 720,
or the 575.
They didn't have a 575.
There was one of the weird
There's a
ones.
570.
There was a something 75, like the 7.
There's 765.
765,
which is basically a fast 720.
Yep.
Which is, also fast. And by the way, they all use the same engine.
Yeah.
They're all 3.8s. There's 3.8s and 4s, but the 4s are basically a punched out 3.8.
And they all have similar design architectures when it comes to like the underpinnings of the cars.
Or not even just underpinnings, like they all look pretty fucking close to the same. And then we didn't really talk about this, but there's a new 725.
That might be what I was thinking of, because I knew I had heard.
I think it's a 725.
725 Spider. Doesn't look like it.
No, there's a new replacement to the 720.
Gotcha.
It just came out like a few weeks ago.
Let's just search new McLaren and see what pops up.
Not the Artura.
Not the Artura. 750S?
750.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Which, again, I don't know if I prefer their whole 7-something or 5-something nameplates, or if I would rather them just go back to the MP4 - whatever. I don't find either of them any more coherent.
I kind of prefer this because there's definitely a defined category.
Yeah.
They're all super fucking fast. They're not, from what I've heard, they're not numb driving because I think they still have hydraulic steering in the 720.
Yeah.
But like they're some of the best sports cars that you can buy, but they all sound the same. They probably drive really similar.
Yeah.
They look very similar to each other. A lot of it's price tag. There's MSO, which is their version of PTS.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, you can get it. You can spec it out the way you like. And then there's the Senna.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing. Yeah. It would be interesting to drive one. I mean, well, first of all, if you have a McLaren, if you're listening, please mailbag.eos@gmail.com. Reach out to us there. But like, I don't know if we drove them all, if we'd be able to say how different they are. And maybe we're just not trained enough and we need to, drive all the supercars all the time.
I mean, I agree. From my standpoint, I think the differences would be subtle. And
you got to be on a racetrack to really
get
the differences.
Because the differences are going to be, let's say, a 5. What's their 5 Series car? Sorry, my brain's already dead too.
There's 570 GT.
570.
There's 570S.
So let's say any of the, like a 570 is like 7/10 compared to a 720's 9/10. Like those are going to be above street driving no matter what you're looking at.
That's above our ability.
Yeah. So to actually extract that would be quite difficult. You'd have to be somewhere that is good to help you extract that and consistent, like a racetrack,
yep,
as well as have the skillful ability to do so. And again, those are something that neither of us have. But my assumption is that it would just feel like, oh, I'm in a different car. The knob just got turned from 5 to 7.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking about public road driving, the NC1 NSX Type S, we started to say that that car was beyond as far as we could think. Like the car was faster than we could think.
Yeah, and that car was, we'll call it sort of competitive with the other two, with the Ferrari and the McLaren at the time, the P1 and the Ferrari.
It's not competitive with that. It's not anywhere close to the Holy Trinity.
Yeah. Because
it is a hybrid, but it is a high performance hybrid. But like if we're talking horsepower numbers, just overall specs, like that's the budget version. That's the car that if you can't afford a 918, you get one of those.
And that's my point, is that it took those and just shrunk them down, and that's what you get, and it's already at that level where we're feeling like, okay, there's very few roads we can actually extract this.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's how McLaren has been since the MP412C came out, because if you look at it, that was I remember when Top Gear reviewed it, and they're like, this thing is uncanny, the way it develops speed, the way it erases bumps, because of no connections to any of the wheels between the other wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just basically done the same thing since. They've almost done an Apple in a way.
They really have.
They've basically just took that, because that was their launch back into the mainstream car market.
That was what, 09?
Yeah. And then they've just basically said, okay, tweak this ever so slightly every year and release a new type.
Yep.
Literally the Apple model.
Yeah.
So there you go. But anyways, well, we've been rambling on for about an hour, and both Gavin and I are tired.
Yeah, I'm gonna go eat something. I don't know what.
I need to go eat as well.
Yeah, you have a thing to go to, so
I know. I need some food.
yes. But thank you all for listening. I think you and I should probably just get this up and loaded.
Yeah.
Like before I leave.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
I'm good with that.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for listening to us ramble about Suzuki Cappuccinos. Tune in next week when we'll ramble about something else entirely. Until next time, I've been Gavin.
And I've been Justin.
And we've been the Exhibition of Speed podcast. Goodbye. That was one word.
Intro's ready.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever this podcast may find you. It is I, as always, Gavin.
And I, Justin.
And this week, well, we just got done driving a Suzuki Cappuccino.
And we really need a cappuccino because we're a little tired today.
I'm exhausted right now. I mean, I drove from Salt Lake up to where the owner is up here by you, and then out to East Canyon, drove through East Canyon in the full duration twice for the first time of the year.
In a major rainstorm.
Well, half of it was in a major rainstorm, yeah, with some hail. But yeah, stick around and hear what we have to say about this car, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.